to this training video from asrock.co.uk/C# where there's lots more training videos. Now we're just going to go ahead and click on the standard toolbar here to create a new project, console application. We'll make it a console application here by selecting this as opposed to a Windows Forms application. We'll make it a console application and we'll call it classes and functions 1. Classes and functions 1, and we'll click OK, and we'll just wait for that. There we go. It didn't take long. Now, what we're going to do straight away here is move on to a bit of object-oriented programming. So in Solution Explorer here, we'll just open up here. You can see we've got our program.cs. I'm going to pin this out for now. By clicking here, let's pin that out. We've got program.cs, which is a file which is our main file where the access point for the application is, in the static void main function, which is inside the class program, inside our namespace, classes and functions 1. And we're just going to add a class to our program. So right click, add a class, and we'll call the class here, and it creates a new .cs file which will be compiled alongside the program, and our class we'll call the person class, and we'll click add. Now here we have the skeleton of our class person, and what we're going to do here is just, so we've got, if you look here in this program, we've got our classes and functions 1 namespace. Now you'll notice our class here, class person, is within the same namespace, so it's accessible to the static void main function here. In fact, well, we'll show you that in a minute. So I could add a constructor here, which we'll talk about later, by creating a function which has the same name as the class. So the constructor would be called person, and it would be just to take the same format as a function, but it's a special function because it's called when an object of class person is created, but we'll talk more about that later. Let's just create a little function here. We'll make it public so it's accessible to the main method or outside the class. Public, and we'll make it return nothing, void return, and we'll just say display message, and we'll include the braces. And then for a function or a class, you need these curly braces to show the start and the end of the function, and we'll simply just put in here console, start that again so I can get IntelliSense, console, there we go, console class, which is static class, and we'll call a static function, which means we can call it using the class name as opposed to an instance of the class. We'll talk more about that later as well. Console.writeLine, and we'll just say hello from class person. Hello from class person. Right, we'll just put that there and close that off there. Okay, so we've got our class and we've got a function within the class. Now this function is said to be a member of class person, and it's public, so it's accessible through the class, through an instance of the class. Notice, we'll talk more about this again later, but this is not a static function, so it must be called on an instance of the class. Now if it was a static function, for example, public, didn't need to get rid of void, public static void display message, I could simply go to the main here and just say, well, using the person class, we'll call display message. Hit enter there, and there we go. So we can call display message on the class name. This is exactly the same as this .NET framework class here. We've got the class console, and we're calling a static function within the console class, and we have just done the same here. We've got class person. We're calling a static function display message within static function display message within the person class. So person class display message. Now if we go ahead and run this, it will run off the end. So just to stop it from falling out the end there, because I'm not going to run it at the command line, we'll maybe talk about that later. Now console.readline, I'm going to use the readline function, which will wait for some user input before the console application exits. Now if we just start debugging this, by pressing the play button there, green play button on the standard toolbar. On the standard toolbar, then you can see we've got the output hello from class person. Right, and then if I just hit enter, that'll exit. Now let's just have a look at what's happening here. Let's click on the side here, and that's us creating a breakpoint. So if I run it this time by pressing this play button or hit the F5 key in the keyboard, which I just did, you'll notice it's just, here's the program here, and there's nothing to display yet. Now if I just go back to my back to here where the breakpoint is, the application is broken out here at the breakpoint. I can tell because of the yellow arrow here on the breakpoint. Now if I press F11, it will jump. I should have said actually, F11 will cause the program to jump into any functions or constructors that I have created as part of my application. F10 will simply cause it to step over that function. So you can step over functions by pressing F10. You can step into functions that you have programmed into your application. You will not be able to step into .NET Framework functions by pressing F11. Alright, only functions that you've created. So you can see it's jumped from here into display message in the person class, because here we have a person object, the person class name, and a display message which is inside the class person here. And so we're yellow arrow indicates where we are, and we'll just press F11 again. Steps into console.writeline, nothing output at the console yet. Press F11, just go back to here, press F11, and you'll see that we have hello from class person. This is output to the console here. I press F11 again, we're back to display message here. So we went inside the display message function inside the class person, and then we've come back to where we called from in the main method. Then we'll go to console.readline. It's waiting for some input from me here at the command line. Just hit the enter key, and then the program can just exit, and we'll just stop debugging there. Now the other thing I want to show in this short tutorial here is just get rid of that break. No, we'll leave that breakpoint there. And instead of making this static, we'll just make it an ordinary function. And you'll notice here the development environment will probably complain. Let's just build it and see what it says. Build errors. Would you like to continue? No. An object reference is required for a non-static field. Right. So an object reference is required if I'm going to call display message. So what we'll do, maybe it'll do it for me. Let's see what it. No, it's not going to do it for me. Okay, right, so what we'll do here is create an object of type person. We'll just call it P1 as opposed to P2, P3, P4, because we can make as many objects as we want. P1, and we'll use a new operator to call the constructor for the object, and it's of type person class. Yeah. And then we can simply go call display message on P1. We'll just close this, and we'll take that breakpoint out and build it. and there's no complaints for that. Hello from class person. So the only difference there is when it's a non-static function, it's got to be called, here's a non-static function inside class person, it's got to be called on an actual instance, an object of that class which has been constructed by using this format here. Okay, and then we call the display message on that object instance. So we'll talk more about that in later tutorials, but that's just a sort of introduction to static and non-static functions and a bit of object-oriented programming, classes and functions within classes. And that's all I want to really mention for the time being. Just quickly showing you again, if I put a breakpoint here and run it, so there's nothing output to the console yet, because it's, if I can just make it smaller, because it's gone to broken out of the breakpoint here. So if I just click here, and again F11 to step into. Now this will call the default constructor, but we haven't created a constructor for the class person. There is no constructor in here. The constructor's got the same name as the class. It's a function within the class which has the same name as the class. So the development environment will have built in a default constructor. So press F11 and we go straight to the display message, and then into display message there by pressing F11, const.writeLine. You can see there's nothing output yet. If I just press F11 again, you'll see that hello from class person has been output to the console, and then I'll press F11 back to the main method, const.readLine, press F11, and it's waiting for some input from me. Hit the enter key and we're down to the end of the static void main method, the main method, the entry point for the application. Okay, that's enough for now. Just showing you a bit about the debugger there. Okay, so more videos at asrock.co.uk/C#. We'll be going on to constructors and member variables and passing values to constructors in the next video. Thank you for watching.